Welcome to Season 4 of the Empowering Women podcast, a production of the Empowering Women in Industry organization. Together, we will hear from ambitious and inspiring career women as they share their stories of success in overcoming career challenges. I'm Charlie Matthews, founder of Empowering Women, and I'm proud to introduce our host, Shannon Baumgartner from Femspire.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Empowering Women podcast. This episode will air in March, which is Women's History Month, and it is one of my absolute favorite months of the year. I think during this time, we have an opportunity to celebrate all those amazing women that have come before us. But in my mind, more importantly, we get to celebrate the phenomenal women that are in our lives. So today, I'm excited to share with you one of these women in my life. Her name is Perri Richman. She has taught me everything I know about leader branding, and she's become a wonderful light in my life on my own leader journey. So Perri is a corporate strategist, brand builder, and advisor, blending her leadership experience at complex global corporations with investment and advisory of early stage companies to further winning innovation for consumers, companies, and investors. And I am so excited to have her today on the podcast because she is reshaping how industrial companies think about and approach innovation and entrepreneur or maybe entrepreneurship. And if you work in manufacturing as I do, you know this is much needed as we enter Industry 4.0. So welcome, Perri, to the podcast.
Awesome to be here, Shannon, and definitely a mutual admiration society.
Yep, absolutely. So Perri and I are good friends, and I want you to become good friends with Perri. So today, I'm going to start with tell me about your story. So Perri, can you just tell our audience about your background in manufacturing and industry, and why did you choose this industry?
Sure, thanks. Well, as you said, I'm a self-described corporate strategist, and I've spent most of my career communicating, marketing, positioning, manufacturing companies and their products and their services. And early in my career, I was doing consumer marketing for big companies like Unilever and McDonald's. And instead of gravitating toward how do I promote the product, I found myself really attracted to how things work and how things happen. So I was in remote plants filming how margarine and salad dressing was made, or sharing the stories of these suppliers for McDonald's that really help ensure that global consistency yet localization of product, which is kind of an unusual thing for a consumer marketer. So really, it was in the .com time period that manufacturing really chose me. I didn't choose it.
And okay, interesting.
Yeah, after doing a stint in Detroit, and there was really no better place to learn manufacturing than in Detroit, it really hit me that I wanted to work with brick and mortar companies, particularly manufacturers, to really modernize, help create relevancy, and ensure that they were competitiveness and could live their legacies. So, as they say, the rest is history. And I spent years at American Standard, at Ingersoll Rand, and Trane, and now have the pleasure of working with private companies, which is a completely different yet really exciting story, like Slipknot, which is a specialized safety flooring and surface technologies company. And
interesting.
Here's an incredible one. They have a product claim that 90% or more slips and falls can actually be reduced once they're installed. Isn't that crazy?
That is completely crazy. The audience, write that down. Slipknot, if you got fall issues in your plant, write that one down.
It's so rare to be able to work with a company that can make a claim like that and be able to back it up. It's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is really cool, Perri. And with McDonald's, you said that, right? Like learning how those things were made actually on the floor. So I would tell you, I'm definitely not a marketing genius, but that just seems really odd for someone in that particular line of work. So definitely led you in a different direction. So that's really fun. I love that.
It was awesome. And there's just so much to learn when the intellectual curiosity is there and that mechanical mind is
Okay.
put to work. It's pretty incredible. It's fun.
Yeah, and as Charlie Matthews knows, she's the founder of Empowering Women. She's also in like the marketing social media area, and it's definitely different when it comes to industrial products versus more consumer, your direct consumer good products. But I'm going to pivot a little bit. So some of our prior conversations, I just happen to know that you have just a really just breakthrough, thrilling new initiative that you're focused on. So tell our audience a little bit what that focus is.
Yeah, it's so exciting to share a labor of love of mine. It's the broad, big launch of JASPY, which is a strategy technology platform for corporates who are really innovating outside of their four walls with
Okay.
startups and with other private companies. And our target is corporate strategy, technology, product managers, marketers, of course, supply chain,
Of
um,
course.
of course, M&A, and really anybody who touches strategic innovation inside of an industrial or a manufacturing company. So super, super exciting.
What brought you to that? Any thoughts on what brought you to that? You have a co-founder, correct? In Tracy Williams, is that right?
Yes, yes. So we always joke, when a corporate strategist and an investment banker walk into a coffee shop, what do you get? You get a technology company. And
Okay.
ultimately, when you look
I'm
at
not sure that's what I would have picked, Perry, but we'll go with
we'll
it.
go with that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So when corporates work with outside parties to innovate, it's really, really a complex process to identify companies they want to work with, to screen them, to analyze, to conduct due diligence, to manage a pipeline, monitor the landscape, communicate internally, communicate externally, and be able to transact it all at the same time while we all do our day jobs. So, what led us here is, the ability to pull together both the intelligence that corporates need with the business productivity that we know manufacturing companies value in
Right.
order to really accelerate innovation.
Yeah, and how do you think that's challenging the industry? Because manufacturing, as you and I both know, has been a long time. Let's just say that we're not usually on that cutting edge of whatever the next thing is. So, how do you think that's challenging the industry to think or act in a different way?
Well, there are 12 industries that are forecasted or expected to be disrupted by technology and challenger and startup companies in 2022.
Really,
Manufacturing,
12?
12 industries. Yep. And that's
Wow.
in addition to financial services and real estate technology and all of those things that we've been hearing about and watching for so long. So, manufacturing is one. And on the other side of manufacturing, service operations is another.
Oh,
So, it's both the development of products as well as the support of products that offers this either really exciting opportunity or really, really big threat. So, what we all see, and I'm sure I'm sharing things that are sort of motherhood and apple pie for our listeners, but demand for digitalization, for
mm,
smart technologies, plus
yep.
the automation related pressures for productivity, it really creates a huge space for early stage companies that are unencumbered by the corporate processes that we love, decision
I wouldn't
making.
go so far as to say that I love them, but that's okay.
we love,
We love
bless
them.
them. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do. So,
Bless their heart, right? For all
the
my Southern friends in the US. Yep.
exactly, exactly. So, the corporate processes, the decision making pace, and the lack of structure that's typically in place for these types of decisions to be made. These early stage startups, they're unencumbered, they're fast. They're purpose driven. They know their problem. They know their customer, and they have the ability, and they're getting funded. The amount of money that's being put behind these disruptors is absolutely outrageous. So manufacturers really do need to partner up. They need to think differently and get outside of that if it's not created here mindset
Mm.
and innovate together with these startups or private companies. Or guess what? What do you think is going to happen?
They're good. They're gonna be gone.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or the competitor that chooses to take advantage of this is gonna leapfrog them, right?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And, I was spending a little bit of time reflecting upon the manufacturing industry and the types of industry, the breakup of the big multinational type of conglomerate, and then the consolidation of, vertical integration of those companies that were sort of divested because they're not core. This isn't what we're talking about. Let me share an
Right.
example. Let me share an
Okay. Yeah.
example.
Just share an
So,
example. So make it real for our listeners. Yep. Go ahead.
exactly. So, just a couple of weeks ago, on January 12th, 2022, this year,
Yep.
JCI, Johnson Controls,
Yep.
they acquired a company called Foghorn. And the goal of acquiring this company was to expand their leadership in smart and autonomous buildings. Big promise. Now, who's Foghorn? It's a 75-person company in California that was started in 2014, and it received its fourth round of funding, or Series C funding, in 2020. So it's not some, spun off business from a big conglomerate. This
Right.
is a fresh business that came out of a green field with really purpose driven founders. So it's really interesting to see the kinds of young talent, the great ideas, and the passion for solving problems that these early stage companies have to bring to corporate and to big
Well, in
manufacturing.
JCI, even though they have, obviously a lot in the controls and HVAC space, they're a very heavy industrial company, right? So that we're not talking about more of a tech driven company. We're talking about somebody who's truly a manufacturer.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. They do have a, strong legacy manufacturing business. And, I think their reputation, and my observation of how they build their reputation, is being that controls based and technology driver.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a great example. And to your point, I think the manufacturers got to get over the mindset of we didn't invent it here, so we're not going to entertain it. Um, how do you think your processes helps people find those companies, right? So I'm sure that's part of what you and JASPY are offering. Is that right?
Definitely. So, the benefit of JASPY and the way JASPY works is it really is designed to simplify out. We'll talk in value stream terms. If you look
Right.
at the pre investment process of identifying companies, all the way through to either investing, partnering, or acquiring a company, and all those steps in between, knowing how both the investment process works and how the corporate engagement process worked, we looked at every single pain point in the value chain and essentially designed a system. We say it's designed for the way real people work, designed
Okay.
a system that takes away those pain points. So
Okay.
there's the intelligence piece, which is access at your fingertips to data for 22 million private companies
Oh,
from
wow. Okay.
early stage all the way through to IPO. we offer first look screening. So if a corporate manufacturer doesn't have the in-house skills and capability to really screen, look, evaluate, flag those things that contribute to a company's success, we can do it for you. In addition, our system offers access to domain experts for 30 or 60-minute phone a friend calls. So
Okay.
you don't need the big expensive, the big expensive domain expert networks,
Right.
because we're bringing those people who are front line around these technologies to help corporates. So bringing the data, bringing the intelligence so that you're not going out and looking for all of these things.
Right.
That's number one. The other, and we love this, business productivity.
Yep.
And the other, we love this, which is business productivity.
Yep.
And that's the simplification of daily tasks that are required to run this kind of process. So it's the data room, it's the document management, it's the workflow management, it's the communication and the collaboration, the analysis, the reporting, all simplified and streamlined down. And guess what? We are a system designed by women. So women who are also behavioral scientists. So
Yep.
it's really designed with a very special human touch, and that's part of the secret sauce.
Which is what I love. You're gonna learn that probably about Perri here in a little bit. She a lot of her leader branding work is based in behavioral science, which is probably why I love it so much. Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think of this?
I just love, Perri, that we're kind of bringing the data and we're challenging our industrial executives to think differently. And we're encouraging them that we don't have to do it in the four walls. You don't have to have a think tank sitting in your corporate structure. And as you know, working for corporations, we move slowly, sort of like turning the Titanic. And if you have that outreach and you have ways to get to that outreach, you're going to innovate faster. And all of us, I think, at the end of the day, benefit from that. And then the fact, to your point, that there's women doing this technology is just fantastic for me, because I think it will have more of a human element to it.
Well, I like to think so. And for sure, data's fun, intelligence is fun, and it makes the process that much richer and more interesting for everybody to be able to tap into and learn.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm going to pivot a little bit. So we just talked about behavioral a little bit, but what are some of the most defining moments you think of your career in manufacturing and / industry that's led you to this point? Because what you've just described to me, I wouldn't describe on the normal career path for somebody in marketing or communications. So just curious how you got here for our listeners as they're thinking about their own journey.
It's so interesting because as I was preparing for this, and you had shared some thought-provoking ideas or thought starters for the interview, it wasn't until that time that it really sort of clicked for me, that I realized early in my career, remember back to that .com time, that I wanted to work with manufacturers to really modernize and stay competitive. And that's been a driver for me, and it's been a real theme for me throughout my career. And
Okay.
the things that led up to this, there's the emotional side and the experience side, and then there's the professional development side of things. And the emotional side is that being part of big companies, I've been part of 150 transactions, mergers,
You mean like mergers and acquisitions? Is that right? Oh gosh.
Yeah, mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, JVs, strategic partnerships, and more. And it's
Oh my goodness, Perri, are you serious? Isn't that like a lot for? That seems like a lot.
It's a lot. Let's just
Yeah.
say I've written a lot of org announcements.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
For sure.
Probably more than you'd care to, but that's a whole different conversation.
For sure. Yes, that in town halls.
Yeah.
But you know what? These kinds of transactions, they're really fun and they're satisfying to celebrate. But the process to get there is so cumbersome and it's even laugh worthy. And when I've really sort of reflected on what got me to this point, is that I have called attorneys in the middle of the night looking for term sheets. I've begged corporate development to see their pipeline of companies and have gotten basic spreadsheets of names. And I've seen two parts of the same company pursuing different strategic relationships with the same company and not even knowing it.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And the worst part, the worst or most laughable part is just being on the receiving end of leaders sending me announcements of competitors who are taking action and us getting caught flat footed. So, some of my fondest career moments were those transactions and those experiences where we had winning teams. We had really strong transparency and we successfully partnered for a great, great outcome. Now, the one that I think about is my Ford and Visteon experience in Detroit
Okay.
when Visteon spun off from Ford and went public. Now, the
Right.
future of that company wasn't so bright. However, that moment in time to get to that IPO as a spinoff was one of the most satisfying experiences of my career from a learning perspective, a people perspective, and just the staying power of the experience itself. So, it is that change process that really led me to want to create change through technology.
Yeah, and I think you also have a passion around, I'm going to call it early stage businesses, both small and medium. Correct me if I'm wrong, Perry, but I think you've done quite a bit of coaching in that area. So you've partnered with different organizations to do coaching. So it sounds like you saw this experience at I'm going to call it the big company. And then you saw how these connection points could help people. And then you saw some of the struggles with the small or the mid-sized companies that you were helping to consult with. So it sounds like all that journey just connected the dots for you. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time.
Yes, definitely. And you alluded to leader branding and personal leader
Yeah.
branding.
Yeah.
And it's a science that I think we both have a strong appreciation for because it
Yep.
definitely it looks at behavior and it looks at image and it looks at perception and it really is designed to create methodical and meaningful lasting change for people. And that makes people stronger and people make businesses stronger. And
Yep.
while it was something most definitely, well, it was really developed on a professional development assignment, teaching social media to college students to keep them out of trouble with
Oh,
social
I
media.
did not know that's where it started.
Yeah,
Okay.
it did. It's evolved a whole lot over
Yeah,
time
it's
to
not,
become
trust me, it's not, there's a social media component, but it's way down the list. You got a lot of work to do before you get there.
that's an understatement for sure.
Yeah.
So it's evolved over time to become a real leadership and talent development tool to help assess leaders,
Yeah.
assess their likelihood of success in their roles and for the company, and to really change and hone in on behavior that creates the best reputation for the person in the business.
Yeah.
Now, what better place to do that than with early stage companies
Oh,
where
good point.
a founder or an executive team within an early stage company, I mean, the data is all there in terms of the likeliness of investors investing because of the founders or the leadership group and the domain expertise, the customer's likelihood to buy, the marketability of the company. So that's when my passion for entrepreneurship and early stage companies really came together. It clicked that there's real need and opportunity to help founders be a positive contributing force for their companies.
Yep. And she may touch on this in a little bit, I'm not sure, but one of the things, Perri, I learned from you is that your personal leader brand is important and you need to define that, but you need to know how you're connected to either your company's brand, and that could be a large Fortune 500 company, or it could be a sole proprietorship. And one of the things I learned from you is that your brand may be very similar to your company's brand in the case of a sole proprietorship, or it might be very different. But the question is, how are they connected and how are you managing them both together? So yeah, I definitely agree. It's something you could really drive, especially in that early stage process. Yep. So
Definitely.
speaking of driving, how did you drive your career development? And if you would, I'd like for you to focus on how personal branding has been so critical to your career development. Because I will tell you, and I'm not just telling you this because she's on the other side of the mic from me, what Perri, you and I worked through was absolutely game changing for me in terms of how my brand shows up, not only where I just show up personally and where I'm sitting, but what it looks like on LinkedIn and such, and really making me think about what am I focused on and why. So tell me about your career development and how does personal branding play into that for you?
Well, speak into the mic and say that again. Can I record you on that?
Yeah, you can actually. This is being recorded right now. We can just get you an edited clip and you can put it out there.
There you go. Thanks for that. I'll send you the check later.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
throughout my career, I've been working with leaders. And I love to joke that I have learned everything about leader branding and leader stewardship from being a Ronald McDonald handler. I, for a short period of time, was responsible for escorting Ronald McDonald to different events and ensuring that Ronald was prepared for his audience and that he knew who he was greeting and that his persona was in shape and he had the briefing and that he was really able to deliver on the promise of Ronald McDonald and in turn serve as that icon for McDonald's.
I
Now, mind
had
you,
no idea. I did not know
really?
you were the Ronald McDonald handler. That is fantastic.
I was. Now, mind you, I have a terrible fear of clowns. So that's a whole nother
Oh,
story for a
wow. Maybe
different
that wasn't a
day.
good fit for you, Perri. I'm just saying.
It was a lot of fun though. And it really shaped my perception of leaders and the role of leaders, not just celebrity leaders or celebrity icon leaders that were really a big thing of the past,
Right.
but really in terms of treating leaders and the expectation of leaders that all kinds of stakeholders have, whether it's employees or it's customers or it's investors. There is a spotlight on leaders to be the best version of themselves always, to be prepared and to represent the company. And so, putting for really evolving leader branding beyond the getting college students out of trouble with their social media, it was ultimately looking at a cumulative body of experiences with leaders from all walks of life at all levels of, in particular, manufacturing organizations, whether it's a traditional industrial manufacturer or a pharmaceutical manufacturer or a consumer products food manufacturer. And it was looking at that grouping of experiences. And then I was really fortunate to be able to go back and get a master's in organizational and behavioral psychology and study the human contribution to a company's likelihood of success. So I was able to put forth a program that was steeped in real adult learning principles and methodologies and had that practical application of, yeah, we know how leaders tick. We know how they think. We know how they work. We know those external factors. And being able to put two and two together and then customizing and tailoring it so that it makes sense for the person, that you're working with and their reasons for action. There's 9-step problem solving in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, she just, by the way, she makes you start with that. What is your reason for action? So yeah.
I'm a manufacturing woman at heart. We cannot get away from lean. Sorry, no matter
Yeah.
what we do. So, being
I'm not
able,
sure how you ended up in a marketing and comm, to be really honest with you, now that I've known you for a while, based on this and what you're telling me. Sort of like you missed your calling a little bit along the way.
well, I can say the same about you.
True.
Even though you are an engineer by training, an engineer at heart, a change agent, you really are a champion of women and a marketer in and of yourself.
Yeah,
So
I am.
we,
Yeah,
we
that's
can
true.
we can just reverse roles. How's that?
Yeah, there we go. We can reverse roles. You're too
So,
funny.
leader branding has really taken shape because it does have the lasting impact on people, and it does have the lasting and measurable impact on organizations because stronger people make for stronger organizations.
Yeah, and you recently, I'm going a little bit off here, but I love an article you recently wrote for Brand Image Magazine, if I got it right, around how, and correct me, I'm sure I'm going to use the wrong terminology here, but how that really is starting to become an asset for companies, individual leader branding, and how companies should think more strategically about how they manage that, and leverage it honestly for their, the greater good. Let's put it that way.
Yes. So I think you're referring to an article on distinctive brand assets. And
Correct. Yep.
distinctive brand assets in the technical, definition of its form are things that represent a company, whether it's an icon, a jingle, a character, a logo without the name. It's
Right.
something really distinctive about the company that you don't even need to know the company name and you recognize that particular asset.
Yep.
So you see the swoosh for Nike and you know
Right.
that it's Nike. For Train, for example, you see the meatball and you know that it is Train. So,
Right.
there's certain iconic elements to company brands, and it's not just visual. There are other examples like sound and smell and all kinds of other ways to look
Right.
at distinctive brand assets. But at the end of the day, what experiences and what studies will show is that the most distinctive brand assets and the most memorable thing about a company's brand are the people and the
Mm.
experiences that people create for the company. And I think that's especially true with manufacturing, even though we think that our service people or our people who work the line in the plant or those that work in accounting, that they don't have an impact on the brand, but they absolutely in a lot of ways have the biggest impact on the brand, more than your traditional sales or marketing person.
Yeah, and I know very little in this genre, but just watching what happens on LinkedIn, and watching how companies are becoming more, I guess, social media friendly, and like actually giving their employees social media content to share intentionally, right? And backgrounds, like the background on LinkedIn, right? Putting it from whatever company that, you're with. So just really interesting. Just kind of back to the original question, how do you think leader branding affected your career development, and maybe even more importantly, like the back half of it, where you are today?
Sure. So I was really, really fortunate that the company that I was working for was very generous with me. I was generous with them in terms of the use of this work, the ability to apply it, the training of other people to use it, the weaving into organizational processes and talent and that type of thing. And in turn, and I was also really, really transparent with the company in terms of what I was doing with it outside of the
Right.
company. I asked a lot of permission. And our compliance department had said, okay, it's been years of disclosing everything you're doing. Let's just award you your intellectual property.
Oh,
And
wow.
the
Yeah.
company, the company did all of its due diligence. but ultimately awarded me my intellectual property and licensed it from me, which was a real gift. And
Yep.
it's a piece of my professional development that I don't take lightly at all, because the company really, because of, I guess, my contribution, my dedication, and the work, allowed me the freedom to be able to be a thought leader in this space. And, short of walking through the front door of a competitor and not doing things on business hours using business resources, which I never did,
Right.
ultimately it did give me the freedom to really think about my own identity and think about how I wanted to grow and evolve my brand beyond that big corporate manufacturing identity.
Yeah, I love that. And you really stepped out, to be really honest. And I'm going to laugh with Perry. I think I sat through your workshop at least 3 or 4 times internally. And then I actually worked with her when she branched out on her own. So definitely having an impact. So with that statement of having an impact, really where I want to end today, Perry, is what lasting impact or change do you want to create in 2022, but then really beyond 2022? What do you want to be remembered for?
So I would say, it's one of those questions that as I was preparing, I didn't put an answer to, because it's one of those that really just needs to be heartfelt and, put out there with a real just truth, which is,
Right.
I want to be remembered as somebody who contributed and made manufacturing and industrial businesses better. And being a woman in manufacturing at a time when there weren't a lot of women in
Yep.
manufacturing, being somebody who was known for charging ahead in the industry, and then also being able to show that there are career paths, different career paths, and entrepreneurial career paths, both inside of big corporations as well as outside. So I guess I just want to be able to expose the possibilities.
I love that. Expose the possibilities. Because I'll be honest, manufacturing is not going to make it into the future without people like you kind of showing us what the possibilities are and how do we really get to Industry 4.0 with those companies that are going to challenge us to do things differently. So, with that, Perry, I'm going to end with, where can people find you? So, where can people learn about all this amazing work that you're doing? Both your personal social media as well as maybe JASPY social media as well.
Sure. So, the best and most easy place to find me, short of giving you my mobile number, my home phone number, my mother's phone, my husband's phone, now my daughter's cell phone, and all of that
Uh-oh.
is,
Dallar's got a cell phone now. That's not good.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Really is, find me on LinkedIn, Perri
Right.
Richman. And I think I am the only Perri Richman, Perri with an I, on LinkedIn. And, there are all of my connection information is there, and all the information about the multiple endeavors are there as well.
Okay. Well, Perry, it was so much a pleasure just to be able to spend a little time with you. It's been a little while since we've been able to chat, so grateful that you're able to join us today on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for what you're doing to make industry better. I really appreciate it.
And thanks for having me. And it's very strange to be talking about myself for an hour. So thanks for indulging me.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, happy Women's History Month, and I will talk to you soon, everybody. Have a good day.